Okay, welcome back to Hindustan Astrology. I'm Katya, and I have back Dr. Santhip Kanholy. Thank you for joining me again.
Yeah. Namaste, Katya.
Namaste. So in today's video, we're going to talk about the Pisces New Moon chart for 2021. Now, this is a chart that in Vedic astrology, we use to gauge the whole year. And you can change the location on the chart to ascertain what the ascendant is for your location. And then that will tell you what's going to happen in your town for this upcoming year. And initially we were going to do a video just on Jupiter and Aquarius, but I thought, oh my gosh, when that happens, it's around the time that, we have the Pisces new moon chart. So we're going to take a look at Jupiter going into Aquarius and what it means for this new moon chart. So I'm going to go ahead and initiate the screen share. Okay. So I thought it would be interesting to also pull up last year's new moon chart, just to, now that it's all over, we can look back and we can see how things panned out, right? And so this is the chart for this year. And one thing, if you notice between the two, is that both charts are a Kala Sarpa Yoga. This chart, though, for this year contains the tenuous Mars-Rahu conjunction that's going to be happening on March 26th, exactly. But the fact that by April 11th, we still have this conjunction, the whole time, Mars is in Taurus, it's going to be with Rahu. And so, this entire year is going to be flavored with this conjunction. Now notice that Mars is in Venus's sign and Venus is in Mars's sign. So we have a Parivartana yoga. So Santhip, what do you think?
Well, I think Mars, Venus, what you correctly said, there is a Kala Sarpa Yoga. That is true. No, it's not a pure Kala Sarpa Yoga, but still, you will still feel the influence of Kala Sarpa Yoga, in my opinion. What is definitely interesting, I can definitely say, is that this fact that definitely the Mars Venus exchange is a powerful exchange in this chart. It's the exchange between the second lord and the third lord. So definitely there's going to be a lot of financial investments revamping. The way you look at finances is going to change. I do anticipate changes with businesses, the way you are looking at businesses that could give you long-term investment. Now, Rahu is in Taurus right now. So definitely, you can definitely expect new ways of investing money, new ways of, saving money as well. So usually, Rahu Mars is also potentially going to be this karma with land and real estate and homes and buildings and so forth. So for sure, I can say that just because Rahu is with Mars at the new moon, a lot of people are going to think about home improvements, straightforward as that. I can say that for sure. The other thing that will also increasingly play out is this more, you could say, increased aggression. That's the best way I can frame it. Like there will be increased aggression and so forth. There will be this increased tendency to speak more direct and so forth also. So it's almost like you'll create a problem because of your speech. Then you'll have to make it balance and whatnot because of the Venus exchange in Mars, and that ends up being a good opportunity here. Now, what is very interesting that Rahu Mars, Mars is aspecting Ketu, and you can see that Rahu is in Rohini Nakshatra, Mars is in Mrigashira Nakshatra. Mrigashira Nakshatra is the Nakshatra of searching also. So potentially, I would say all these, the services that are requiring searchings and so forth. For instance, you have the search engines like Google. You also have like the GPS kind of thing, which is also normally something you use for search, right? So you put in the location in your GPS and that searches the path for you and so forth. So Mrgashira is also linked with the path you take. So those kind of companies would have some challenges for sure. One way or the other, there might be some unexpected thing that could come for Google.
Those are all gauged by satellites. I happened to see this on TV the other day. I don't know. I was watching History Channel as usual, and they were talking about the GPS. Like there's about 3 or 4 satellites that are used to gauge your location in GPS. It's not just one. It's like they're all bouncing off of each other. And what occurs to me is, Mercury is debilitated for this year.
Yeah.
So that indicates problems with communication, slow communication, foggy, not being able to get your point across, having satellites not working,
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
And he's in Jupiter's sign. And then, of course, this brings us back to Jupiter at, 1 degree of Aquarius, conjunct Neptune. So what do you think about that?
Well, Jupiter is in Dhanishta Nakshatra, so there's a lot of wealth that can be made with Jupiter in Dhanishta. When Jupiter is Neptune, though, that can be slightly challenging with regard to your belief systems. What I do think is that the religious organizations of the world might go through a challenge, or the problems within the religious organizations could come forth. So this could include, Vatican. People are gonna think more idealistic, and Neptune can bring delusion, right? So now when Jupiter is with Neptune, you can definitely think that people are going to be more open to much more ideas that are out there and so forth. So now there could be a real discussion about
believing in a cult kind of thing.
Yeah. So for sure, a lot of cults will rise right now. You'll see some cults coming out also. Both will come. Now you have to remember that Jupiter is hemmed between Saturn and Sun on either side. So it is a challenging time for cults. So for sure, if you're running a cult, you are having a challenging time. But interestingly, what I would also add is that Jupiter is actually the planet that is in the 10th house from Rahu here also. That is one interesting observation, because usually the 10th house from Rahu also is an important point to look in the chart. Because think about that. You have the North Node, and on one side, you have the highest point where the moon can reach, and then you have the South Node, and then you have the lowest point where the moon can reach, and so forth, right? So those points are astronomically very important. You have Jupiter there, and so forth. So there'll be a lot of interest in learning. So a lot of people now during COVID time, a lot of people actually signed up for courses. They decided to invest their time in online courses. The whole thing exploded, right? So something similar would again play out in terms of interest in further education, in terms of interest in learning and so forth. And definitely I would definitely add that the academic institutions, even like universities and public colleges and whatnot, will also have a challenging kind of time based on that also. Of course, there'll be on the other side new ways of learning will come forth. Something that was considered as delusional before might actually begin to gain some ground. So that kind of thing is possible. But what is definitely good is that because you have at least you have a benefic planet like Jupiter in the natural 11th house of the zodiac. So you're going to see a lot of people beginning to work on their ambitions right now. That's a very simple Jupiter in Aquarius transit. And remember, Jupiter is in Dhanishta Nakshatra, which is ruled by Mars as well. So you can definitely see that Mars has, there's a very high level of, you could say, excitement, courage, actions that you take. And Jupiter and Mars conjunction or any connection can activate the intelligent actions. So this whole year, that is looking good. But watch out for the angry communication that can play out. You might be good on the action part, but when you're communicating it, you might just lose it. So that's one thing I'll just advise for sure.
Right.
Right. The other aspect I'll just definitely add on Dhanishta is that Dhanishta is also nakshatra that is linked with the earth very strongly, because that is the nakshatra where Mars gets exalted also. it can be linked with the 8 directions around the earth also. So there'll be a lot more action for the military and army and so forth. So for sure, one way or the other, that is also going to happen. That so the army and military could be a part of a very important thing. I would definitely expect some kind of action on the military kind of movement and so forth. For sure, one way or the other, that can definitely play out.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially, I mean, back to the Kalasarpa, Alan Anand's book on Kalasarpa, he describes, the pure Kalasarpa, as you described, that doesn't have any planet attached to it. But there's like 4 other categories, and it's a less pure form. But the fact that Mars is beyond the degree of Rahu, but he's in the same sign, he's in the same house, this makes him an outlier. So he is kind of like standing out, kind of like an out of bounds planet by declination, where he's there, but he's getting he's the rebel. He's the, getting all the attention. And then also, if you see, the fulcrum of the Kalasarpa is the 4th house. And that's where Jupiter is with Neptune. And it's for Washington, D.C., which is for the whole U.S. 4th house, that's the homeland. So having, Neptune and Jupiter there is showing a shift in thinking, a shift in beliefs. But also, Neptune is oil. So this is kind of getting away from oil energy in a way, new thinking. And then, also, look down here. And this is something I was toying with this idea earlier, because I've been really obsessed with the yogi point and applying all of these principles. I took a class with Allison Bodani, who was a student of with Simon, with Montrigi. And so she went over this whole hierarchy of yogi principles and how to ascertain if a person can hold on to their wealth. Because you've got all these yogas that depict wealth, Dana yoga and etc., right? But just because those are there doesn't mean that the person is going to hold on to it. Some people act like alcoholics when they get a lot of money. And so the yogi point is telling you, how it interacts with the ascendant tells you if someone is going to actually hold on to their wealth. And so it's interesting that the yogi planet for this year is Jupiter. And he's at the fulcrum point of the Kalasarpa yoga. And he also has just entered Aquarius. So, I was kind of playing with this earlier, like, well, okay, for Washington, D.C., using this as the ascendant, we can apply the hierarchy principles about how Jupiter is interacting with the ascendant. And also, the yogi point is in Gemini. But it's going to change for everyone. And then I thought, well, okay, so let's use the moon chart, right? Let's use the moon as the ascendant. But it's the Pisces new moon. It's always going to be a Pisces. But if you look at last year, it was in a different nakshatra. Okay. So last year it was in Uttara Bhadrapada, and this year it's in Revati. So it will change, but you only have 3 options, right? Pisces can only be in 3 nakshatras. So, it's not real strong to use it from the moon, but if you use it from the ascendant, and how Jupiter is interacting with it, for instance, is the yogi the lord of the Lagna, and in the yogi star, is the yogi the lord of the Lagna, and in the trinal star, it could be one or the other, you can see how strong it is. And I think it's interesting that, the yogi point is conjunct in the US chart. There's like 4 planets here. So I think for this year, it's going to be interesting with money and cryptocurrency. And this is what I ascertained by looking at, the hierarchy principles. And like you were saying, money and different forms of money, the parivartana. And you know what? Mercury debilitated isn't always bad. Debilitated, when I look at a client's chart, I prefer seeing debilitated and retrograde planets over a chart that is, has all these great exalted planets and all these great aspects, because then things are too easy for that person and they tend to use people, whereas if you have enough good things to support it, if someone has debilitated planets, then it provides an opportunity for spiritual growth. And so I feel like this is actually not going to be also as bad as we think. I think this is going to actually encourage cryptocurrency because it's in Jupiter's sign.
Yeah, that's definitely good. It's interesting. What was the yogi point last year?
Let's take a look. Yogi point last year was in Taurus.
Yeah. Okay, that's interesting.
And the
Yeah,
yogi
definitely.
was
So,
Mars.
yeah.
And the yogi was actually on the ascendant. That's excellent, actually.
Yeah. So you could see that. So definitely that's good. So here at least it's in the 4,000, it's in Kendra. A lot of long-term investments and so forth. I think definitely Purnavasu is going to be a nakshatra, which is linked with, you could say, real estate and return, looking at new ideas, revamping, refreshing, bringing old ideas back into new, all that. Something that you tried before that didn't succeed, but now you're willing to try it again.
Absolutely.
Because now it's a different circumstances.
Purnavasu is the comeback kid, and this is our year. We're going to be the comeback kid, and it's all about Jupiter. And just so you guys know, because I had to kind of dissect this on my own, nobody really explained it to me. But this is, how it works. The yogi point is the pushya point. So it gauges the sun and moon. They liken it to kind of like a fan opening between the sun and the moon and the angle that closes. And it's all gauged from the Pushya is in the sign of Cancer, ruled by the moon. And so Pushya is associated with wealth. And so the yogi point is kind of like the lucky charm, good luck point in your chart. And with the yogi point, what you want to do is when the moon is on top of your yogi point, or when the ascendant every day is going over your yogi point, that is a good time to place a bet, buy cryptocurrency. If you're doing photography, take that picture at that moment, because that's whatever comes from that moment is going to bring you good luck. And so for this year, that Pushya point is in at 29 degrees 51 minutes of Gemini, which is Punarvasu, and that's ruled by Jupiter. So Jupiter, the nakshatra lord, is the yogi planet. And then the Ava yogi is the 6th house from the yogi point, which is not a good place. So sun is not good for this chart for this year. And we have, let's see, the duplicate yogi is Gemini is ruled by Mercury. So that's the duplicate yogi. That's where we get that from. It really isn't that complicated, but if you just play with that on a daily basis, you will be amazed at the good things that come from it. So I just think it's great that the yogi planet is Jupiter. It's at the fulcrum of all of this. And he just entered that. So to me, it's like, this is the year of the comeback kid,
Yeah, definitely. It'll be interesting to see what kind of comebacks come in. I do think there'll be some auspicious comebacks for sure. You do have Jupiter in 4th house. So that's usually good for reconnect with old friends, reconnect with old family members.
It's good for your stomach. It's good for food. Your mama is gonna feed you. And the thing is, Venus in the sixth house is actually restaurants as well. And when Venus is there, it's restaurants. Yeah. And having Uranus there, I mean, that's to me like a sudden resurgence of restaurants, which it's going to be great because I miss going out. I miss, socializing and hanging out with my friends and getting dressed up and going out to eat. I think that's going to be a big part of this comeback.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm sure. What is definitely interesting is that I can definitely say there can be some travel also that can play out because Saturn is in Shravana. So that is one thing that's there. Saturn is a planet aspecting the new moon as well. So it is, I can definitely say that. Saturn is exactly in trine with Rahu too at the degree point. So Saturn and Shravana is also connected with this karma with letting go of land, karma with traveling to new lands and so forth also. Usually there's travel connected with education that can play out. So usually you might see more kids joining this year are more likely to go away from their home and family to a new state to study and so forth. That kind of thing is much more likely as well. That's one very, very easy thing you can say. The other thing I also can say with Saturn and Shravana is a lot of ear problems kind of thing because Shravana is kind of the listening ear kind of thing. It is the star of listening. So watch out for that. Usually, what can play out is quite simply not exactly your ear, but it could be that the headphones you're wearing is having a problem and you have to fix that up or whatnot. That kind of thing is also one thing I've seen. So yeah, it's one
Yeah.
simple thing. Of course, on the communication front, I do think it'll be very interesting to see some definitely new developments on the communication technology. I think a lot of people have shifted communication and that whole thing on with a lot of communication privacy kind of thing is going to be a big concern this year. No doubt about that. Mars is aspecting Ketu for sure. I do think there will be some very interesting, you could say, collective actions that will come. Jupiter is in Aquarius also. And Aquarius is also the sign of large gatherings in general. So now you're going to see these large gatherings happen a lot. This could be conferences, religious meetups, friends meeting up together, all that. It will be some of them will become very you could say controversial or would become newsworthy in my opinion. We had I think one interesting thing also I can definitely add is that at least for the US because Ketu is in the ascendant. Usually Ketu signifies something that is hidden, that is coming shadows that is coming to light also. I mean that's always there with Mars aspecting Rahu Ketu axis, but this year it's kind of more intense also. Now, to be some old secrets coming back in your life. Usually, Ketu in Jyeshta is also old friends that you connect with strongly coming back or showing up unexpectedly, all that also. That's one thing definitely that can play out. But definitely for the US, I would definitely add some old private secretive kind of cases would come out. The spy agencies are going to have a tough time for sure. Like whatever the spy agencies are, for
Right.
sure.
Yeah.
Not about that.
Gossip, and all of the negativity in the media, the lies and the
Yeah,
gossip and all of that is indicated here because third house, communication. And
yeah,
I mean, this is like darkness and Shravana, here's the thing about Shravana. I love Shravana, but most people can't handle it. I'm sorry. I don't really know very many people that listen very well.
yeah. That's
And
right.
my experience is that people with Shravana Nakshatra prominent oftentimes listen to gossip. And
Yeah, that's right.
what's the opposite of listening? It's talking.
Yeah,
So these people are bad gossips.
yeah,
And so with Pluto there, that's bringing out the negative quality of Shravana. And in the third
yeah,
house of talking, oh my God, I'm just like staying in my cave, because
yeah,
the,
yeah,
the, the news is gonna be, just
yeah,
negative. And I'm so
yeah,
tired of it. I think
yeah,
people are exhausted of it. And that for us here in the US, that indicates K2 on the ascendant. Like we're tired. Like we're tired of all this stuff.
yeah. So yeah, a lot of people with Saturn, definitely Shravana is the star of listening. A malefic planet like Saturn, transiting over it is creating challenges with listening. So either you're tired of listening, you're tired of listening to the same old stuff, or finally you're changing the things you're listening to. Now you might actually find some music that you're listening to, you might change. So for that, you might find the news people you're listening to, you might change. The podcast you're listening to might change, or in the YouTube videos you're listening to might change. That kind of thing you might see. And definitely, Shravana is definitely a star of learning. It is supposed to be the seat of Saraswati. There's a lot of learning that will happen. No doubt about that. One way or the other, excellent year for learning. That will be definitely a good thing to look for in this year.
Learning
for sure.
the hard way.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Now, in fact, Saturn and Shravana can indicate learning through traveling also. So some people are much more likely to travel and then learn. So that's also a very good thing. I would say that a lot of road trips this year. For sure, I can say that. I think people are gonna.
I cannot wait. How many cute outfits do I have? I could not wear last year. They're just sitting in my closet, and I'm like, oh God, I can't wait to go travel and get dressed up and go see my friends.
Yeah. Yes, for sure.
Yeah. And one big, that's the another thing I wanted to point out. The moon is in the 5th house, right? So the new moon in the 5th house of education and speculation, having Mercury there debilitated, I mean, especially highlights cryptocurrency. And seeing what happened recently with cryptocurrency, a lot of people that were just, hodling, holding on for dear life, we're like, oh my God, just got this big boon. And so what do you do when you get a big boon of money? You spend it on traveling. A lot of people do, so I think that finally we're going to be able to get out there.
Yeah, definitely Venus is in Ashwini also. So definitely I do think traveling for entertainment, for vacations are going to come back. I do think that will play out soon. Venus is in Ashwini. And also on top of that, the healthcare industry, especially I would say the beauty industry, the cosmetics industry is going to experience a resurgence in my view. That is going to happen with Venus being in Ashwini. It'll be something new, something good coming out. There'll be more opportunities for them, or more. Yeah. I think Texas removed the ban, right? As you said.
Oh well, here, watch the makeup come back because everybody's been at home, right? And not putting on makeup, and so all of a sudden, these poor industries that have been suffering are gonna get some business again.
Yeah, so I think it'll be a very strong theme. Usually, it could also be linked, in my opinion, with new ways of new ideas or new technologies or new healing modalities coming into picture. Also, I do think that will play out with usually Venus being in Ashwini. Venus is very good for rejuvenating, actually. So new rejuvenation kind of therapy is coming out, and a lot of medical kind of thing coming out for sure. That is Venus being the 7th lord in the 6th house with exchange also with Mars also. You could see that. So that's also very powerful exchange for health and healing and so forth. Also, I can definitely say that.
Yeah. And 5th house is children and education, and so we've been waiting for when the kids are going to be all back in school, and a lot of places have done it, but some are still waiting. So definitely the summer, the kids will be back, because a lot of people use the quarter system and they're not taking the summer off necessarily, so I think we're going to see that happening. And while Jupiter is in Aquarius from April until June, it's like June 20th. This is really, the opportunity for us to get out and get some stuff done. Because even though, Jupiter's debilitated in Capricorn, he got a Nichabanga with, Saturn being in Capricorn. That helped, mitigate some of those effects. But the fact that Jupiter's moving beyond Saturn is going to give him some strength. And so we've got 3 months to get a lot of stuff done. Go travel, go party it up, go have fun. And then he's going to go retrograde. And then from June until November, he'll still be in Aquarius. And then November, he goes back into Capricorn. And that's when I think the virus is going to resurge again. I think that's when things are going to get a little bit intense again. But then by the time he goes back into Aquarius, I think it's like the end of the year, like December 31st or something. Then we're going to be, charging forward again. So it's going to be this little back and forth dance all year.
Yeah, I can definitely say halfway through this point, halfway through 6 months from this point will be important. The 5th month from this year would from April is going to be important as well. So it'll be like September 11th and so forth. That could be an important month. The 7th month, which will be like November, is going to be important as well. I can say that for sure. There'll be some challenges that could come in the month of June 11th. I can say that for sure. For the US overall and so forth. So it could be like a travel kind of thing and all that. So it'll be in the middle of summer, but then the travel industry is going to try the best. And so there'll be some more increased restriction, and you just have to get through to do travel kind of thing going on. It could be a problem, but it'll be just like delayed of sorts and so forth, that kind of thing.
Right.
At least for the US. Now, it could be like a communication thing going on. Usually with Saturn and Shravana is also giving this, it is kind of with students a lot. So, there is this real, I would say Saturn and Shravana is also linked with students who travel long distances to study also. So these category of people might face some challenges, especially in that particular month. So could be like you're talking in terms of immigration issues, immigration reforms, things like that. So it'll be interesting to see what plays out in that particular month in my view.
In law, as far as law is concerned, they just revoked the basically the restrictions on people entering the United States because of pandemic. And
that's right. Yeah.
Keeping out, I forget what it's called.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's going to, be huge for immigration.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. That'll be important time. A lot of people will be making some important plans and so forth also, no doubt about that. I can say that for sure. The other aspect is usually Kalsap Yoga, one thing to recognize is that there is an extreme high and extreme low. So it's like this is overall tendency for extreme happiness, and then there's an extreme depression, right? So you just need to watch out for that. I would definitely say that. There'll be these extreme things potentially happening, like I said, close to the year end or so forth. That's something just to be aware about. It'll be interesting to see what happens on the Thanksgiving front and so forth, in my opinion. But well, the ascendant is Scorpio, so it is following the 6th house of the US chart, if I'm not mistaken. So there is definitely a karma with the enemies for sure. So you're going to hear more of China and all that kind of thing, that thing for sure. So it's just going to build up for sure this year too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even if you look over here on the declination, Mars is out of bounds.
Oh, really? Oh, yeah, that's going to be really crazy. Yeah.
So he's a little bit off the ecliptic, for this chart.
Yeah. Yeah. So yeah, usually that can indicate the problems with siblings, problems with brothers or sisters or even friends even. People contribute to you by blood. There might be some unexpected challenges, anger issues that is coming up, or your sibling is acting crazy, all that variation. So Mars is usually aggression. But like I said, that could also be linked with the armed forces, corps, and so forth, the police forces, the military, and so forth. So it will be interesting to see how this outer Mars plays out during the upcoming new moon. So is there any military action that you see? From what I know, I mean, it's the first time from what I know that there's an actual military presence in the US capital and all that, right? So like ever since the riot happened or whatnot. So
Right.
That'll be an interesting kind of
Still
thing to see.
there. They're still there.
Yeah.
All of the
So
military forces are still there. And what does that mean? That's a dictatorship.
yeah, well, yeah, well,
Democracy shouldn't have all those
yeah,
militia there to protect it like that. That's crazy.
yeah. Astrologically, you are seeing the outer bound Mars in action. You are seeing probably exaggerated kind of Martian energy out there. That's exactly what outer bound means. You can see the declination of Mars being way out, like 24 degrees and so forth. So it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see, is this the beginning of something, or is there something more coming and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see for sure. Yeah.
And look in the Navamsha. Mars is in Hasta in Virgo. And whenever Mars is in Virgo, it indicates health problems.
Yeah.
So and it's
Yeah.
opposed the sun and moon.
Yeah.
So again, we're still not out of the clear with this health crisis.
Yeah. Yeah. There'll be, of course, Mars Rahu, you have to watch out for the pandemic and all that, that kind of thing. One thing for sure. But one simple suggestion I can say is also to work on your immunity kind of thing also. Because Venus being in Ashwini Nakshatra is an excellent time period to work on your immunity. I would even say that Mars Rahu, it'll be a very fascinating thing because both the animals of Rohini and Mrigashira are both snakes. So snakes is also, it'll be interesting to see what happens. There'll be some of the snakes are going to be in news, you could see. There's a snake thing, some way or the other, there'll be a snake news thing happening and all that. So you'll just see that happening. This is one of those things you'll see. Yeah, one big thing I can say is that Rahu being in Rohini is actually linked with jealousy kind of karma. So yeah, watch out for that. So a lot of jealous friends and jealous siblings and all that kind of karma you can expect. For US, that would mean challenges with very close the countries that share borders, so like Canada and Mexico. Mexico for sure. There might be some increased kind of challenge kind of thing that might play out. It'll be interesting to see what happens again. But for sure, Mars indicates south direction. It being the Lagna lord of this particular new moon chart for the US is also indicating challenges from the south directions.
Right. Right. Yeah, and whenever Ketu's on your ascendant, I mean, that kind of indicates a loss in some ways. And I just, this month we've got the George Floyd trial for the officers that were arrested. And it's not going to be pretty. This is right when Rahu goes with Mars, and when that started, when he was killed was the lunar eclipse of last year. It was like June 5th, I think, June 5th or 6th. Yeah. And how interesting is it that, and it was in Scorpio. So here we've got Ketu on the ascendant. I think that's going to flavor a lot of this year, the outcome of this trial. And it's looking from a legal standpoint, it's not looking so good for George Floyd, unfortunately. I'm afraid that the officer will be vindicated, and that's what's going to spark a whole wave of riots again.
Yeah, definitely this year holds potential for that. You do have Mars with Rahu, but there is an increased surge for violence and so forth. So usually I would say if you did have experienced some challenges, maybe last year with riots and so forth, it's not over yet. So, border power, right, that kind of thing. So I can definitely say that there's definitely the potential for violence. Now, the key thing is that the violence potential exists within us right now. So that's one thing just to recognize. I mean, anyone who's in the US for sure, watch out for that. It is definitely important thing to recognize the potential after new moon for sure. So summer is like This could just be like arguments you have with your friends, and that is building up the whole energy. And then you never know, like you carrying this energy of violence, you interacting with the shopkeeper with whom you become angry with, and then suddenly that guy goes out and does protest because just he's been subjected to that kind of energy, right? So it's an energetic thing also. But I can definitely encourage us to use this Rahu Mars energy to productive problem solving. That's the best thing I can say. Find problems that you can solve. Straightforward as that. I can really encourage that instead of like literally becoming violent about it or and so forth. Usually, a Kalsarpa yoga or the proximity of the possibility of a Kalsarpa yoga in the chart does represent extreme actions also. So I think we will see some extreme action.
Yeah.
But
And almost an
yeah,
exact trine between Saturn and Rahu. Almost
yeah.
exact.
So yeah. So usually that's like a march. Usually as you come out of the march, some kind of marching thing that could play out, and I mean, definitely there'll be some kind of army action for sure, but not. It's unclear which part of the world, but perhaps US might not like US would march or something, but more like there'll be um, some other allies that would march, or definitely Rahu Mars in seventh house for US chart has problems with partners, you could say.
Opponent.
There is an opponent. Yeah, there is some that kind of an fight between countries, between US and the countries, going to be very important. Maybe the foreign country for sure. There'll be a foreign opponent definitely coming into view this year for the US, you could say. So of course, in my view, it could be China, but in my view, there'll be one more country also. There'll be a challenge which we'll find out this year.
Well,
Unexpectedly, there'll be a
it's
thing
whoever
happening.
has a lot of things in Aries because this Parivartana yoga. I think that
Yeah,
this is
definitely. Yeah. Well,
a lot of things. And I don't know
yeah.
any other, I don't know China or Russia's chart off the top of my head, but the chart for England, for the UK, has a lot of planets in Aries.
Yeah, well, this year definitely US UK thing could have some challenges if that is the case. This year for sure, I would definitely say um, the Parivartana Yoga is actually helping out, but still there'll be some problems that you have to sort out also at the same time. So
Right.
I think UK is just finished the Brexit thing, and then you're kind of dealing with the post-Brexit UK, which is going to change things also. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out also with the UK. Not all about that. But yeah, definitely Mars in seventh house is not great for partnerships. So long-standing partnerships, long-standing allies, there might be some break thing happening. One that could be an actual possibility. And could be like new financial partnerships being formed also at the same time. Because of Mars being in seventh house and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays out also. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I think we've just about exhausted this chart. So I'm going to stop the share. Okay. So anything else that you want to add? Is there
Well, for the new moon in Pisces, definitely for the US, I will say, since the ascendant is falling in Scorpio, usually there is a karma with secrets coming out with Scorpio, things that you kept secretive or finding new secrets and so forth. Usually, it's like what I would advise is that um, just take it easy. So usually when Scorpio is a sign of transformation, one way or other you'll be forced to go through a transformation. So US will go through a transformation. Whereas Scorpio is falling in your chart, that will go through some kind of transformation. So transformation is always not always good when you're in the middle of it, but it's like a new road being constructed in front of your house, right? So
right.
your house is blocked, you can't travel much, all that. But then once the transformation is over, and you go through big and better kind of shifts happening. So this is a very powerful year for transformation. I cannot say that enough, and I would highly recommend. Now, the best remedy for Mars, the Rahu-Ketu axis, is to do some kind of physical activity like yoga. I can definitely recommend martial arts. Very good year for do Tai Chi kind of thing. I can really recommend that. As long as you do some kind of movement, then the Martian energy can be channeled very positively, and I can really recommend that. Also, like I would encourage, since Saturn is in Shravana right now, aspecting the new moon, to try to connect with some deeper music and so forth. Try to listen to mantras that can calm you down. Try to chant mantras that can calm you down. Have a meditative practice going. I can really encourage that. Now, this is a great year for astrology. No doubt about that. So very powerful astrological
Astrology
energies
and
will.
also for, UFO disclosure. This is
Oh yeah,
in the
definitely, yeah.
United
So
States chart, our sun is in Aquarius. So we've got
yeah,
Jupiter and Neptune on top of our sun, and our sun's in Shet, and that's all about, astrology and UFOs and ET and
yeah,
all of that
yeah. I think there'll
stuff. So
be
I think
a
this
lot
is
of
the year leading up to disclosure when we have our
yeah,
next two great American solar eclipses of 2023 and 2024. I really think that's when disclosure is going to happen. And so this year, having Jupiter and Neptune conjunct on top of our moon, and we're in Sati Sati, like all of this information is going to come out regarding new ways of thinking about who we are and where we came from and what's going on. And it's going to
yeah,
have to be
Mars.
the government. The government has to initiate.
Yeah,
They have so many
yeah,
files.
yeah. Mars Rahu for sure is, in my opinion, disclosure from military archives and army archives and so forth. So like army archives, navy archives. There'll be some. It's an archive kind of thing. So you'll begin to see the old things bringing new light of sorts. That I can say for sure. Could be like very interesting machines coming this way. Interesting. That potential definitely exists. Disclosure, yeah, definitely. It will be a step closer to disclosure. That I do think. A lot of files will come out for sure. Definitely, it could come around on November, the way I see it, and definitely April also it'll kind of build up also. I mean, already the Navy has been releasing a lot of files, right, if I'm not mistaken. So a lot of files, some very interesting files would be released for sure. A lot of there'll be a lot of good stuff happening.
And the
So it'll be
Mars
an interesting
rover,
time for sure. Yeah,
the recent NASA Mars rover just landed. And so they're looking
yeah, that's right.
for, like scientific signs of life, not multi-dimensional signs of life that we already know is
Yeah,
there. But I mean, that's the thing is that, NASA is gearing up for their 2024 moon mission. And this is to establish a base so that they can then use the moon to launch to Mars. And that's going to be 2030.
yeah. So interesting times for sure. Will be a very great year for space for sure. Not out about that. A lot of technology and aerospace and space industry. They'll definitely go through a big shift and a lot of very powerful projects. They'll be busy. That I can say for sure. Not out about that. Same thing with NASA and so forth. So it'll be interesting to see when the whole moon mission thing happens for sure. 3 years from now, it could be quite powerful time overall. Definitely.
Yeah, can't wait.
Yeah.
Okay, well, thank you so much for joining me again. I know everybody enjoys your videos so much and they really look forward to them. And so as usual, if you are liking our videos, please don't forget to like it and subscribe to the channel. And also I want to add that I have new products in my shop on my website. I have my new Umas, Upayas, aromatherapy, Navagraha elixirs. And so there's a different one for each planet, and you can use this in conjunction with your mantras. And what I have coming out with them soon are a friend of mine, Brittany from Sarvani Designs. She's designing stretchy bracelets of the crystals that go with each and gemstones that go with each planet with the glyph. And then also Sherry Lynn of Pleiadian Cosmic Healing Discs is making a disc for each Graha. And so these will be available this summer in my shop. And I'll also bring them to the expos that I come to coming up soon. So just wanted to remind you, and thank you very much again, Santhip, for joining me. I always enjoy our sessions.
Thank you. Thank you. Namaste.
Thank you. Namaste. Till next time.